Okay. So the meeting be called to order. I'll note for the record, Commissioner Terriani called me. He has a medical appointment that prevents his attendance at today's meeting. So we're going to move forward in his absence. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes of May's meeting. I did, because I wasn't here. I was home sick. Looks like everything went pretty smoothly. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Anybody from the public wish to address the board on the agenda items only? Okay, I see no hands and nobody's coming up, so we'll move forward. First item on the agenda is a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Corrections Center and the prison. They were distributed in advance of the meeting, so I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review those. Assuming that's happened, I'll entertain a motion to approve the current payables.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, the tables are approved. We'll move forward to the Controller's report, Mr. Padilla.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Controller's report of the prison inmate and canteen accounts as of May 2023. The Controller's office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the prison business office for the month of May 2023, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $465,894.28 as of May 31st, 2023. The balance in the canteen checking account was $412,069.20 as of May 31st, 2023. And then in addition, as of May 31st, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment accounts of $757,092.94, which is earning approximately $3,000 per month and which will mature in July of 2023. During the month of May of 2023, $100,191.32 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of county inmates, and an itemized detailed list is attached to my report if anyone has any questions. Regarding our two investments of the canteen account funds, I emailed everyone yesterday. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 19th, which is just before our 180-day Pliget account maturity dates. So at that meeting, I can provide current renewal rates for a potential vote from our board on another term, possibly in 180 days. And we can discuss those rates at that time, and whatever the board would like to do, we can do.
What are the dates on those?
July 20th. July 20th is the maturity date for $622,162. That's earning a rate of 4.93% annualized rate for the 180-day period. And July 24th is $152,738 that we invested at the rate of 4.94% annualized for 180 days. And that will end up earning us almost $18,000 come next July, come next month, on July 20th and 24th.
But our next meeting is the 19th.
19th.
So
we'll have the current race for July 20th and probably July 24th at the meeting July 19th.
one day.
Yeah, 1 day
Time to get
and
everything
4
done.
days. Yeah, we'll be able to handle
4
it.
days, I'm not that concerned about.
Yeah.
1 day.
I think we'll be able to just with a phone call renew that if we'd like to.
On the question, does that include transferring additional funds over time? If
Yeah,
we were to do that?
yes, when we made this investment 5 months ago, we left $250,000 in the canteen checking account to pay normal monthly bills. That checking account has grown to $412,000 over the last 5 months. So it may make sense to take an additional $100,000, say for example, from the checking and add it to the $775,000 that we'll be renewing for investment next month, and still have over $300,000 in the checking account for normal monthly bills that we would take care of on a daily basis. And we can discuss that next month.
Is that, in your estimation, from the level of your familiarity with what we call our normal monthly bills out of that account, is that sufficient enough?
Yeah, that would be more than enough to maintain our monthly typical expenses and still have, 60,000 more than we did 5 months ago in that account, in that checking account. So we're doing the best, as stewards of canteen monies. We're doing our best to make sure we maximize what we can for those canteen funds, which are used for the benefit, education, and welfare of our inmates.
Any other questions? Anything else with your report, Mr. Booth?
That would be it, Your Honor.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the controller's report.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, the controller's report is approved. Next, we'll have here from Mr. McConaughey on the Community Corrections Center report.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the house arrest report for the month of May. Adult house arrest had 183 participants, juvenile had 25. Programs revenues, house arrest had $59,801.83. Juvenile had $5,410, for a total of $65,211.83. Year-to-date totals on both departments is $294,838.09. The program's expenses were $74,220.21. Program's completions were 38. Violations were 12. We still have 2 outstanding warrants for house arrest. And the budget overall, overtime's at 41%, expenses at 42%, and revenues at 44%. In my report.
Any questions for Mr. McConaughey? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve his report.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you guys have it. Thank you, Mr. McConaughey. Next, we'll proceed to the warden's report. Warden Betty.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for May was 723 inmates, 538 were county inmates. We averaged 620 adult males, 3 juvenile males, and 100 adult females. And the average daily population of U.S. Marshal detainees is 185. Our overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. The staffing update, currently our correctional officers' numbers break down to 167 full-timers on shift, 8 out on workers' comp, 2 on continuous FMLA with 63 having intermittent FMLA, 2 on administrative leave, and 2 full-time vacancies for a total of 181 full-time officers. As of May 31st, 2023, revenue was at 39% and expenses were at 44%. Extraordinary occurrences, there were 3 in the month of May. On 5/14, the Sheriff's Department committed a female who was highly agitated and combative. After multiple attempts at de-escalation, a decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for her safety and the safety of the responding staff members. She was then assessed by the nurse. On 5/19, staff discovered a female inmate who had inflicted several lacerations on herself. This individual informed staff of her intent to continue to harm herself, and a decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair while attempting to calm her down. Once placed in the ERC, nursing staff cleaned her wounds and checked her vitals. This individual was then placed on a suicide prevention watch and put on a list to see the psychiatrist. And on 5/24, the individual became non-compliant with attempts to place him in restraints. This person then became physically aggressive, and the decision was made to place him in the emergency restraint chair for his safety and the safety of the responding staff. Once secured in the chair, he was seen by the nurse. CREA, there was one CREA investigation completed in the month of May. There was an allegation of inmate sexual misconduct, and it has been determined to be founded. The completed investigation has been forwarded to the district attorney's office for further action if deemed appropriate. In personnel, I have several recommendations for various vacancies. If we were to hold an executive session, I can fully elaborate on that. And this concludes my report.
Any questions for the board?
I'm wondering, the intermittent FMLA number really isn't moving. I think the last time we discussed it, you indicated that you had somebody in your office monitoring patterns, things of that nature. Is there any particular reason why we're stagnant? We're kind of stuck at the upper 50s, low 60s.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. And what is happening is, as a person's year comes to an end, they're renewing. I would say the majority of them are renewing for an additional year because their condition didn't go away. We are monitoring it, and we're reporting anything outside of normal parameters to the Human Resources Department and working with them for having individuals get recertified if that's appropriate. But again, it seems like if I have FMLA and it's running out, my condition is still there. I'm just submitting the proper paperwork for an additional year of renewal of those FMLA.
I'm a little familiar with the process, but I'm far from experienced in the process. And I had a while ago, Labor Council do a memo about what we can and cannot do in terms of trying to, combat the issue. It is an issue. It's a huge number, and it probably affects your ability to manage staff and things of that nature. Did you get a copy of that?
I'm sure I did. It's not jumping to the forefront of my mind at this point in time. But again, what we're doing is every step of the way we're touching base with HR.
I would just make sure our HR is in touch with Labor Council, because I think he knows best out of everybody because of his experience and the fact that he's an attorney. Maybe he can try to help us with something. Trying to do something.
I'll set up an appointment with both of them. We'll have a meeting. I have weekly meetings with my staff about.
It's very confusing, the process with the research and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it isn't an easy process to tackle, but I'd like to see the numbers go down a little bit. So if you could do that, that would be
Absolutely
great. Thank you.
Gordon, how's the turnover situation with employment? Is it creating vacancies, new openings, or?
It seems to be about normal. It seems like maybe twice a year we're having to have a class. We just started a class today. Right now we have, two full-time vacancies at this point in time. It seems like a class of 5 to 10 people twice a year. I'm not seeing a big difference. Fortunately for us, other institutions have suffered pretty heavily with, I don't know what's going on out there in the general public, but a lot of appointment-related issues have been occurring since the onset of COVID. I don't know the connection, but there's some kind of connection.
Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the warrant report.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Ward. Stick around. We need to resort to you. Okay, we have the Northeast PA Crisis Intervention Team. There's only one member of the team here.
No, three.
Oh, there's three. huh?
There's three of us. Good
And actually, there's
afternoon, Lord. Thank you for
More
having
than
me
that.
today. My name is Sherry Escala, and I'm one of the Crisis Intervention Team or CIT coordinators at the Advocacy Alliance. I'm here today with Maria McKevich and John Tulare. Our other coordinator, unfortunately, could not be here today. His name is Ray Hayes. There's been a CIT program in our area, as you may know, since 2010. Most recently, Lackawanna County applied for and received a federal grant for the project Lackawanna County De-Escalation and Crisis Intervention Collaboration Project and contracted with the Advocacy Alliance and their CIT program to train a minimum of 150 first responders in Lackawanna County to include law enforcement, EMS, fire, sheriff's department, probation and parole, and Lackawanna County Corrections, as well as other related professionals for the next 4 years. The types of trainings that we do are mental health first aid, CIT, advanced CIT trainings are covered under that grant. And the grant goes from December 31st, 2022 to December 30th of 2026. So the reason we're here is we have requested all agencies and organizations we are working with to support our data collection efforts. I believe you all have a copy of the supplement in your packet. If not, I do have them on me for you guys to have. We are confident that our CIT program is successful. However, this data will assist us with improving our programs and with future grant applications. In addition, we can provide summaries of the information collected. We would be happy to discuss this with you further, and we are here today to ask you to support our efforts in incorporating this supplement into routine incident reports within the Lackawanna County Prison.
How can we help you specifically?
We have this form,
Inputting data?
inputting this data, incorporating it into your reports so we can collect the data, see where the gaps are within our programs, see where we can help them support your staff, and help support the program to keep the program going. I know that the Lackawanna County Prison has incorporated our mental health first aid program into their new hire orientation. Thank you, everybody. So we provide books. The cost for that is $19 a book. So through the grants that we receive, we're providing it to you guys at no cost. In our last grant, we did have 2 staff members from Lackawanna County Prison trained in mental health first aid. Captain Ruddy is one of those instructors, and one of us will come over and train with him for the new hire orientations, whereas needed.
Colleen and Jim?
It's great, and certainly help.
And I've always been a huge supporter of the efforts. We have all of our lieutenants and sergeants who are CIT trained. Not a week goes by without somebody citing in a proud way that their CIT background and utilizing what they've learned in CIT to de-escalate situations here at the prison. So, excellent.
As Maria McKevich can attest, he has been huge, and we appreciate his support. And he is one of the first ones to incorporate mental health first aid into the new hire curriculum, and some of the other agencies throughout Lackawanna County are now starting to do that, so they're taking on his lead. So thank you.
And this supplement will just allow us to collect that data. Ward and Betty said anecdotal stories. We hear them all the time, but anecdotal stories don't always get you the grants. It's this data that's going to help us get future grants. And so we're asking everyone to help us collect that information following each incident report.
And it's a very short form. It's no narrative. It's You know, there's ways to do it. It could be hard copy, it could be from a data link, and then we're able to provide a summary report back to the board to show, hey, here's what's going on, here's what the summary of the activity. And that improves our program as well as yours.
Is there any concern about personal information or private?
We just ask demographics, we don't ask for names.
All right. Well, I go back a long way with Mr. Shalari when he was a beat cop. And he was
Very appropriate.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Thank you.
Anybody from the public wish to address the board?
Good afternoon, my name is Frank, president of Southside.
Again, your last name?
Malachari.
Oh.
So I wasn't able to make the last couple of board meetings, but the last board meeting, I'm pretty sure, we went over the Aramark new contract. I crunched some of the numbers that Frank was listing off. If they were running at a deficit of $300,000, they would need somewhere around 40 cents in increase per meal in order to make that supposed loss that they were calculating. Somehow, Frank was telling us that they needed to make this in order to make it up so that they're not taking a loss. The increase per meal wasn't as high as the loss they said that they were incurring. If you go and you look at their annual or even quarterly reports publicly available to their investors, to the publicly traded corporation, they even list that Frank was telling us that they needed it because their profits were taking a hit, that they were losing money on this, not even that their profits were taking a hit. They list their own reasons of the increase in operating revenue, which is another word for profit, operating income, that it had increased 45% in the last year, year over year, in the second quarter of 2023. So they list the reason as an increase in the amount of money that they're able to get from their current business. So they're increasing their profits. And the reasoning that Frank had given us at the last board meeting as a reason why we should have signed on to that deal, I don't know if those numbers were entirely accurate. I don't know if they were lying to Frank in the meeting. If Frank didn't pull up their quarterly reports. But everything, it's a publicly available company. You can find all that information online.
Okay, when you're talking about Frank, as I said at the outset, I wasn't here last meeting, so who's Frank? Which Frank are you talking about? Frank was your
So I would urge you guys to look through these, especially for the publicly traded companies. You can easily go into their records and call their full crap out when going through those negotiations. I feel like we are paying more than we needed to in order for that contract, and we didn't get enough from them, as far as nutrition stuff that was also spoken about at the last meeting. We're told that it's every meal is signed off on a nutritionist, but I don't know how you're supposed to, I don't think anyone would even disagree that you can't really make a nutritious meal for $1.18 or 34 cents a meal.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Thomas?
How you doing? Tom McHugh. I'm with the Lackawanna County Reentry Task Force, and I'm just here to mention that we're having our annual fundraiser coming up September 13th. It's a Wednesday. It's going to be at the courthouse, on the Livingston side of the courthouse. We're going to be having this every year, we do for two reasons. One, to raise funds to help with the reentry task force, as I'll mention in a second, and two, to educate the public and let them know more about the reentry task force, who we are and what we do. And we do this every year. Our biggest reason for running this, besides the identification of the reentry task force, is to raise funds. And the housing subcommittee of the reentry task force raises money every year, as some of you know, and I think Colleen might remember. She was a big help and very difficult to do without getting my Colleen. We raise funds so people that are coming out of prison back into the community have a better chance of re-entering the community successfully. Part of that is looking for and obtaining safe and affordable housing. And I always mention safe and affordable when I mention housing, because that's important. And a lot of times, somebody's looking for a home plan, they might have someplace to live, but the first thing they're going to find out is that they have first month's rent and a security deposit. And a lot of people come out of prison just don't have those funds available to them to make it a successful home plan. So we raise funds every year to have that money available. So if people are looking to get re-enter into the community and they need some of that money, they can request some of that money from us. And over the years, we've probably raised over $30,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 a year for the last 3 or 4 years. Many of you here in the room have been very gracious sponsors for us every year. So we want to continue to be able to do it. The more money we raise, the more money is going to be available for people that are re-entering the community and hopefully successfully re-entering the community. As a word, we know it, successfully re-entering the community is going to lower our recidivism rate. And so we work very hard throughout the year to heighten the awareness of the reentry task force. And this is our one time a year where we ask the community and sponsors to support us financially. And I just finished this morning getting the reservation for the 13th, so it's September 13th, it's Wednesday. It's a little bit different than we did in the past. We used to go up to Naog all the time. We're looking to have a little bit more foot traffic, a little bit more higher visibility, and hoping that as a result of the event and the sponsorship that we're hoping to get, that we're going to have enough money to be able to help more citizens coming back into the community and successfully re-entering, at least with the housing component of the concerns or problems that they may have.
Any questions for Tom? What time is the event?
11 o'clock. It's going to start at 11, March 11 to 2. We figured every year, almost every year, we try to think different. COVID certainly made us try to think very differently. But it's from 11 to 2. We're hoping downtown foot traffic, especially around the lunch hour, we hope to have some music, and we'll have some tables set up with some of the community resources that are going to be available to help support the re-entrance. That'll be from 11 to 2. And I know that I'm looking, some of you are going to be invited to maybe speak. We'll have a little program at the beginning of it, to have a little program to give everybody a chance to hopefully express their support for our ongoing efforts, and to let people that are around know more about the program and know that the support that we're getting throughout the Lackawanna County.
Tom, September when? I get the date.
September 13th. Yep, it's a Wednesday. Something really different this year. We had them on Sundays in the past. We've had them up in the Naog. We moved it to a Saturday because Sunday's transportation was a problem for some people to get there. COVID kind of really threw a curveball into having the program. We used to have hamburgers, hot dogs, and a whole picnic type event. So we're going to try something a little bit different. I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we were on the courthouse side, and it seemed to work out pretty well. Last year, we had a scheduling problem with Naog. We ended up having a smaller event with the Lackawanna County Arts Festival in downtown Scranton at the courthouse. They were very gracious to allow us to share some of the space with them last year. So this year we're going to kind of go out on our own a little bit, but I think it's going to work really well. And the bottom line again is it's almost like an excuse to ask people to sponsor us so we can get the money, so we can use that money throughout the year.
You never needed an excuse, but
No,
always
I think
Fair course will be a nice
And I think Judge earned the copy invitation was by the way.
I've enjoyed it in the past. I look forward to enjoying this one.
Commissioner Shermack, I don't think has missed a Reentry Task Force meeting in the last year. Since last year, I don't think missed a meeting at all. we'd be more than happy if you'd be interested in supporting and speaking as you did before.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, Liz Parsons. Happy summer solstice. Today is the 1-year anniversary of a group of community members beginning to gather to sign a petition, or to gather petition signatures to end solitary confinement or restricted housing in the Lackawanna County Prison. And so I have a little bit to say, but I did have a question. This has been an ongoing conversation about the policies in regards to the restricted housing unit. I'm curious if the discipline procedures policy has been updated or reviewed since 2020.
Well, I've spoken in the past about having someone on the outside commit. That's in process.
Okay, so I guess that just answers my question as to what I can, reference as far as the existing policy. So we have a copy from 2020. It was last reviewed in April 2020, but last revised in July of 2014. And so just to that point, part of this policy is yearly review conducted by the deputy warden. So to that point, it has not been reviewed for the last 3 years. And so in February, we were here asking for that review of policy, which the board had committed to in order to better understand the use of it to respond to our request to increase out-of-cell time for 4 hours for everybody, including folks held in the RHU. We are happy to hear that is under review in process. I'm curious if there's a timeline that may be associated with that, so we could expect to hear anything.
And I can't give you a hard date right now, but hopefully within the next couple of months we'll be able to have some kind of something for you.
Okay, so maybe we will ask again at the August board meeting. Would that be fair?
You can ask as often as you wish.
Okay.
Can you say who's coming in to look over the process?
Yes, I can.
Okay, who's coming? Yeah. Who's
Only
coming?
answering lawyers.
Who's coming in to review that process then?
He's a former warden here. His name is Ray Collin. Right. And he has agreed to undertake a review. It's going to be in his lap and in his corner. So that's why I'm not going to commit to you about a timetable, because I'm not going to commit his time to it. He's going to commit his time to it after he's in a position to give us an idea, then I'll let you know.
Right, okay, so I assume as like a contracted employee, once the contract might be in place, there would be a timeline for an
I don't even know if he's going to require a contract, to be quite honest with you.
So he would do it for free, no cost?
Well, I don't know about if he incurs some costs. There might be some reimbursement of costs. My conversations with him have not included, a contract.
And just out of curiosity, is he just functioning as an individual who has that partner experience, not a company? Okay.
Right.
Okay. And so, in addition to the policy review, the last few months we've been coming here requesting a report with the restricted housing unit statistics. So, similar to the data collection that CIT is collecting and the board has considered, we believe that based on the existing policy, which I can tell you the policy number if you're interested in looking into it. It's 03.02, section Inmate Rules, Rights and Disciplines, and it's the chapter of Discipline and Procedures.
And so numerous times throughout this, it cites the documentation process for an individual to be placed in a restricted housing unit. Similar to an incident report and tacking on data that CIT is requesting, we are requesting in that documentation that, at the monthly board meeting, the board and the public are notified of how many individuals have been placed in restricted housing that month. And the general reason, we don't need details or personal information, and also the length of time that they're held there. Is this something that the board will consider in regards to data collection?
We'll discuss it.
Okay. So is there a timeline for that?
No.
Okay. Are there any concerns with sharing that information, with the board or the public?
Well, I think that's the thing that we have to discuss.
Okay.
See, I'm not going to speak to you on behalf of everybody until we have an opportunity to discuss it and see what concerns are.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I guess my concern is we have asked, and I don't in my notes here have who has said they committed to reviewing it, but last month we were told that the board would follow up on that request and that we might have somewhat of an answer this month. And so.
Well, as I said, I wasn't here last month, okay? What I can tell you is all of the concerns that anybody brings to us, we consider, okay? We may not consider them or come to a conclusion that's satisfactory to everybody, but we do consider them and we do discuss them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're just a response either way, I guess is what we're asking, whether or not it's possible that the information is collected and shared or not. So, I think saves us from asking repeatedly and you all having to hear us ask the same thing, everyone. And so, on to another topic last month.
Well, I think your 3 minutes is up.
Okay.
Remember that, we have a policy of anybody who wants to address the board, you have 3 minutes.
Were other folks time up here?
If you heard it, I heard it once before, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Feeling the time pressure now. Speak quickly. My name is Phil Yabix. I'm here today representing the Scranton Area Ministerium for most of the things I would like to bring to your attention. One other issue from the Pennsylvania Prison Society that Warden Betty has generously acknowledging our legal right to visit inmates at any time, given us free access. But in visiting the Delta unit, the special handling unit, the availability of showers has become problematic over the last several months. And I'm assuming it's a staffing issue where they currently one floor gets showers 3 times a week, the other only 2 times a week. But those who are only getting showers twice a week, and it alternates weekly, it's not enough to maintain the hygiene issues. And if you do a walkthrough, you'll be aware of this concern. And I don't know what it would take to be able to have everybody shower at least 3 times a week. But we do think it's a health and safety concern that hopefully could be addressed. On behalf of the Ministerium, we have been advocating on behalf of the designated full-time certified chaplain for a while here. We appreciate the efforts of the Jubilee chaplains, Chaplain Medina, Chaplain Dugan, Chaplain Richardson. They're doing wonderful work. But from the inmates, we get various concerns about addressing the religious needs of the folks here. Some of them just concern, and I said with the report, I think that we were included, you're going to be taking over the responsibility for that, so hopefully Deputy Warden Roselle is only going to have the workload of 3 or 4 people rather than the 4 or 5 people that she was normally carrying her workload. But it does seem like a lot of these issues are simply communication flow process. So the Muslim imam volunteer had requested an accommodation for an Eid celebration next week. It was originally refused. I think he was appealed, and again, it seems like it's a simple communications issue. The local Islamic Center so this is one of the two Eid celebrations, one of the two major communal celebrations of the Islamic community. So we do hope that that could be accommodated next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. We get requests, we the Prison Society gets requests for Qurans and Bibles, and I know that they're available. I understand that the Qurans have been ordered, I don't know, but again, the Imam has not heard anything further about the Qurans being available. So that's something that it's a constitutional right that should be taken care of. There's one inmate who follows the Santeria religion, kind of an Afro-Caribbean amalgamation of Christian and Afro-cult, but he's still been on some therapies. And it's gone up, and still the answer hasn't been received. And I think it's a simple communications issue. He does have permission from the state, that should be there. And if I had any other issues, I don't think they're important enough to go beyond my 3 minutes.
Well, they're all important. We have to limit the time.
No, and that's, I think I spoke in the past, we appreciate the transparency that the board has made available, and making this available for the community has been a huge step forward. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Bev?
Bev Quarles from Scranton. The voting is of interest. We continue on now in a different way now that we had a big surge, for the primary election. Next will be in November. So every second week of every month, we're going through and offering help with registration to new people who have come in. And then I take those applications down to the Bureau of Elections and go through with them, and so on a monthly basis, we're having like a nice even approach here. The newspapers are a big help. We have 80 subscriptions going in, so that's what, more than 10 people sharing a newspaper, which is quite doable. Speaking of Delta, that's a hard problem down there because they're each individual. And to get the newspaper from one person to another, I don't know how that works. But in the units where the common room is there, that's easy. Sadly, the newspaper, okay, so it was in the February meeting that week that it was decided to go ahead with voter registration. In the February, March meeting was the newspaper and ECTV. We talked about how we needed that. But it wasn't until April 25th that the newspapers started to come in. And that was only 2 weeks prior to the election. Okay, so the newspapers, how they're working is at the end of every month, we get billed for that. And I don't know what that bill is. Maybe next time Gary can tell us. But I know it's a reasonable rate. There are some glitches, like I said, about Delta, for instance. And some people, oh yeah, we get the newspaper, and then what? I don't see a newspaper in there. So sometimes, especially in the beginning, some of the guards said, oh yeah, here's a stack of newspapers, what are we supposed to do with that? There was no, again, communication of the universal policy. This is how we distribute the newspapers, however that would be. About my first love, Bible study in there. I'm in there every Tuesday afternoon now with the women in the chapel, happy as can be. And they each have a Bible. Thanks to the Jubilee Ministry, it's a really good Bible with all kinds of footnotes, helps, and the AA is called a Recovery Bible, and the AA procedures are in there too. So that is wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else from the phone? Okay. I'm going to ask you all to step outside. The warden has to go into executive session for a few minutes. And then we'll invite you back in. Okay, are we rolling? All right, so we adjourned for executive session to discuss some personnel matters. Warden?
Sure. The first matter at hand is I was recommending the Brian Thomas be allowed to transfer for the county mailroom department to the county prison to work here as a full-time correctional officer.
Do I have a motion? So moved. I have a second. Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. What's next?
Next was I was recommending the hiring of Kim Rosenkrantz as the substance abuse mental health supervisor.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining on the grounds that I have not sat in her interview, so I was not privy to it, and I have not had an opportunity to review any of her qualifications.
Okay. Next.
Next is I'm recommending that Nick Gans be promoted to the position of lieutenant. He's currently a sergeant.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Just two more. I'm also recommending that Officer Stephen Yearing be promoted to the position of sergeant.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
And with the promotion of Nick Gans to lieutenant, that would create a sergeant vacancy, and I am recommending Ryan Griffiths be promoted to the position of sergeant. He's currently a correctional officer.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
And the very last thing is that I had sent out a letter to the board members about a termination, and I was looking for consent on that termination recommendation.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain on the basis that I believe that the board does not have power to terminate under Title 61.
I believe the ayes have it. The vote's approved.
Did I get this right, sir? Nick Gans to Lieutenant, Yearing to Sergeant, Brian Griffiths to Sergeant?
Yes.
Yes.
And you said that there was one lieutenant vacancy, but the seniority list that I have from May 20, I don't know, the end of May, says it indicates that you have two.
I think that other one was filled last month by Nick Dranch.
Nick Dranchek?
Yes, he was a sergeant and he was promoted to lieutenant.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Any members have any other business? I have one item of business before we adjourn, and that is to acknowledge our soon-to-be former county solicitor who got word this week that, as many of you may know, he prevailed at the primary election on both ballots, so he's the only candidate for the open judgeship, the November election, and we will fill that. But we received word that the governor is in the process of sending Frank's name over to the Senate Judiciary Committee to appoint him to the current vacancy, so he can get started right away, and Lord knows we can use the help. So it's good to know that you'll still be serving the county.
I will.
We'll miss you here at these meetings, but I will tell you, you may want to reconsider wearing a vest underneath the robe.
They're making a special
The robes don't breathe.
vest for
But thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your time.
Thank you, everyone at the board.
Congratulations.
I look forward to serving. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominic and Commissioner Shermack have to manage to another salary board meeting. So without any further ado, motion to adjourn.
Thank you. You asked about the newspaper subscriptions. $260 during May for that newspaper subscription.
All right.
Before I get into this, I'm going to get back.
We have to vote on adjournment.